responsible for any losses you may accrue for having weak hands. Where the haters at? Y'all bitches still ain't showed up. And now, right, we got Hex, flawless uptime. People thought this was a joke. Now they're mad at the chart. It's lullaby music, really, right? It's hard to believe that something like this exists. I get it, but you just gotta come to terms with reality. It just exists. Nothing we can do about it. Buy a steak and chill, baby. Shout out to Marketable Thoughts. You can't get this kind of shit for free anywhere else. It's very important to understand that. And we're handing it out. People thought this was a joke. Now they're mad at the chart. So much luck, once again, because the facts don't give a fuck. Peace. Sound check. Let's see. Can you hear me now? We are doing the commercial. Let's see if you guys can hear me now. Yes, outstanding. Great. It's like we never had an issue. Nice. Oh man. All right, so shout out to everybody. I hope everybody's having an outstanding Sunday. I'm just shocked at how everything is kind of falling apart for them, I guess. Not sure how to word it, but it just seems like all the things are coming undone. And you know, I mean like obvious things cuz it's been obvious for a long time what's going on, right? So, the latest buffoonery is I don't know, man. I don't know. So I'm sure you guys have heard about the whole H-1B visa stuff, And I've been talking about this, uh, forever, for years. And it doesn't matter if people are being imported or the jobs are being exported. It's the same thing. And it's a structural thing, and it goes down the same way pretty much everywhere. I've talked about it numerous times. You go to my country, you go do anything there as a foreigner, you will get shown the open door. You will get allowed to do whatever, no problem. Um, Same thing here, same thing in Europe, as far as I've seen it. So it's just the way it has been, right? So it's not anything new. It's the way it's been for a long time, as long as I can remember. But I guess it's a good thing that people are finally catching on. But the interesting thing is our society is so, it's really like a sauce, because I'm a son of immigrants. But when we start talking about these H1B1 whatever visa issues, like, yo, it impacts me too. I'm no different than the next guy that's not, not American, or that is American. Like, it impacts me that same way, because we've gone so far down the line that it's not 1990 anymore. So all the white guy issues are not white guy issues anymore. They're American issues. And that really is something that people just don't understand. There is no white, black, white, Hispanic. Like that reality is non-existent. Everything is now more apparently wrong because everybody is in a similar position as, is what they always shot for or hoped people would attain in a certain sense, right? Which is this sort of equality, right? Because I'm not even supposed to be in the position I'm in financially or societally. I'm not. And a lot of my peers are not supposed to be either, but we are. So I'm not sure if their plan backfired or what, because I know growing up, I wasn't supposed to be academically successful. I knew that. It was very clear. So the fact that I'm not in jail and all these other things at this literal point in time, I guess it's a failure of the system. Now that I think about it out loud. And because of that, all of those issues that were quote unquote American issues, which were white issues that were at one point, and I'm saying white in quotes, because that's just how they were masked. Am I making sense? Because they're no longer, white people issues. They're American issues, and they always were. And the interesting thing about it is that no matter where you look, no matter where you turn, it's not a color thing. It's a economic divide thing. And people never realized that that was the hijack this whole time, because that's what it's always been about. It's never been about equality or people coming here to improve their lives and all this and that. No, no, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sure, it sounds good. And yeah, people do come here to improve their lives, but the reality is different. when people from outside of the country go into another country, such as America or whatever, they're not earning the same as that American that was born there. You know, uh, it's just not how it works. Now, they can't disparately pay the same American doing the same job, one from the other, whether male or female. That boils down to negotiation skills and whatnot. At least in my experience, that's what it seems to be the case. Um, so when you sit here and think about all the things that they say and all the narratives that they spout, they never really line up to be what they are. Uh, and I mean, think about it. We live in a country that prioritizes the exterior relative to the interior under the guise of us being superior and everyone else being inferior. Meanwhile, all the things that we need are being systematically destroyed and really gutted, such that the American mind is one of the weakest right now, and it is the weakest it's ever been, right? And this is evident in every aspect of American society. And it's a long time coming, especially if you understand what are the things that give a society value, right? Uh, when you think about just, what happens if all the creature comfort disappears, this society crumbles instantly because everybody's in cities, everybody's stacked on top of each other. Nobody really knows anything. Very few people will actually know how to survive. So this is how things descend into chaos in reality. It's people not having basic survival skills, which forces them to think that they have to rob, steal, and pillage from others. And, to me, this has been obvious for a long time. But when you're not given the opportunity to just sit there and think about it, I presume it's not obvious, right? But I hope it's obvious now because I just broke it down. And how do we change that? Because these are things that are known by those that employ these tactics clearly, because we see the end result, right? I mean, when you look at what America was versus what it is, you must realize that this is not by mistake. It is literally by design. And these things are put into policy. And you're sold a bag of goods. I mean, people got to realize that pretending to have other people be good at a job than you is sufficient for you to not fucking know shit. I mean, eventually people gonna realize that's a fucking fool's errand. And there is no such thing as one motherfucker that's best at any one thing versus everybody else. Like, yeah, sure, might be more skilled and whatnot, but that doesn't absolve everybody else of being knowledgeable as well. That's bullshit. That's how we get the society that we have today, which is a bunch of fucking walls and a bunch of smoke and mirrors, and motherfuckers don't know whether they're moving up, down, left, right, the right way, the wrong way. Like, people just don't know because they don't have any idea about anything, even though we live in a world where everything is readily available at your fingertips. Think about that. That's the world we live in 2024. Nobody knows anything. Everybody's relying on somebody else to fix the world for them. But yet, all the solutions, all the answers are right there at their fingertips. I mean, this is how far gone people are. How do you think that resolves itself? I don't think there's any solution, honestly. I mean, if it's up to a third party to save us collectively, then there's no saving us. People still don't get what crypto is. They're still out here begging and pleading for third parties to do shit for them instead of realizing that that's just not gonna. It's just not how it works. It's not gonna happen because it's not how it works. Because they don't want that to work like that. So unless society decides to want to be like us, you cannot expect these third parties to give a flying fuck about you because they don't have to. There are no rules and regs for a reason. They're not supposed to be. And it's your job to ensure that you don't get fucked like that. But if all you're doing is constantly trying to replicate what can't be replicated, which is a society where contracts rule, because that's the society we all know. We don't understand it, and the average person does not comprehend decentralization. They cannot fathom standing on their own two fucking legs. This is why they think these fucking coins gotta be on these gay ass exchanges that are just there to KYC you. They're not there to provide you with any fucking value. You're a fucking dumbass if you think people are just gonna do shit for free. That's not the world we live in. What is wrong with you people? Everybody is not Richard Hart. Everybody isn't just gonna give you some shit. So I find it hilarious that the same people that complain about this dude and get constant handouts by this dude expect everybody else to act the same way as this dude, knowing damn well nobody's gonna. I mean, look at what's happened to Bitcoin. In a matter of months, institutions own 1/20th of it, or 121, 100, 120, because it's 21 million, right? Yeah, so let's say 5% of it is owned by the likes of Fidelity, MicroStrategy, and BlackRock. Just those three entities alone account for 5% of the publicly known 21 million number of Bitcoin. BlackRock has like half a million. MicroStrategy has like half a million, and Fidelity has like 200,000 something Bitcoin. I mean, we're talking about. I mean, we all know MicroStrategy has been going on about it since 2020 time frame, but Fidelity and BlackRock, they just started, and they already got 3 to 4% of the supply. I mean, we're just talking about two entities. What happens when the entire animal kingdom, which is what I'm calling Wall Street here, shows up at the swimming pool trying to gobble up that one thing? I mean, do you realistically think they're not going to start looking elsewhere? People really think they're not going to eventually find Hex. And don't get me wrong, they might be told to stay the fuck away because they're not going to be allowed to buy it. But that doesn't mean they're not going to buy it in their PA, in their personal accounts. Because you got to realize what's happening. They're making it mainstream now. I don't know if you guys even realize, but all of a sudden you're seeing Bitcoin in these regular Joe Schmo commercials. or at least a mention of it. Cash App, whatever. I mean, things you just never seen before. And this is how these things get normalized. You know, the little gates get lifted, the little walls get brought down. People are allowed to see these things more normally and whatnot. And the next thing you know, it's everywhere. And what's to stop it? You know, that's the question. What's stopping the world from realizing what's happening and jumping on the train? Well, I think one more economic crash is going to do it, and it might do it for good because that's always kind of been the thing that people have, kind of expected is going to be the driving force behind a lot of the, I don't know how to phrase it, the reset change, but we're not really going through the reset change, right? That reset was supposed to be 2020 and whatnot, um, but it never happened, right? That you will own nothing and all that. That never happened. We dodged that bullet, at least for now. So, was to ensure that we don't get stuck in that type of system because it's not over. Oh, you must be new. Somebody in the chat help this guy out because he's asking baseless questions and you clearly don't know anything about crypto. So, no, none of those things apply to crypto. So, I don't even understand why you're asking that. If people could read, they would not even have these ridiculous thoughts. The reason cryptocurrency is unlawful to the point that you're just now hearing about it 15 years after it got created is because it's outside the realm of their scope. It's outside the realm of their regulatory abilities. So if you're running around paying taxes on crypto, you're a fucking moron. Don't give a fuck what excuse you got. It's just how it goes. Unless you're cornered into it by the system that you decide to put money in, like say you bought something on Coinbase and kept it there and then the gains happen there, then yeah, you're fucked. You got no choice because you're an idiot. But if it happened in a true crypto fashion, then the fuck are you even talking about? I don't even understand what you're saying. I think you need to recalibrate your understanding of cryptocurrency and what you think it is. Because crypto is not taxable. Period. So, good luck with that. I don't know. All right. So as you guys know, I'm starting a website, and that website is predicated on volatility and understanding it so that you understand what the market is doing or about to do. And it's very simple. Volatility comes from the market itself. It's not something that I, I don't want to say it's not manipulated because to a certain extent it is, like everything else. But like everything in the market, it can't be completely manipulated at all times. And that's why when the Fed speaks, it doesn't really matter as much what they say. It's what the market does that matters more so than anything else. Uh, and that's why the Fed itself, right, is more of a PR machine. If you pay attention to how they operate, they're more of a PR machine than anything else. because their objective is to control the market's perception. They can't control the market, right? And we've talked about this before. Um, and this is what we see when the market starts jumping above this 13.3 point 33 VIX level. Right, once the market gets below that or starts traveling towards it, not away from it, things get volatile, right? Things get a little hairy. And we kind of see that. Let me see if this makes sense. Hold on. Nope, not what I was hoping for. Oh, yeah. Hold on, guys. That's not what I was trying to do. No. All right. All right. On this Friday, December the 13th, things are still okay in the eyes of the market. The market is just kind of relaxing on the level, going back to the start of December and in November. Right now, follow the cursor along on both the VIX side and the NASDAQ side. Because the idea is that you come across with an understanding of what the market views or what the market does when it reacts to volatility. Very simple. So on the 13th, which was a Friday, the market was all good. It ran up by 144 points on a net change basis, and it ended up moving all the way almost 100 points higher than what it settled. So it pretty really did a 250 point day move, 250 point move on the day. Now, that's just Friday the 13th. Come Monday, we got a gap up in volatility. But look at what the market did. It, it ran off and ran up for another 300 points. So that's from Friday to Monday. You would think with an increase in volatility, the market will calm down or something. But no, it even gapped up on a gap up of volatility on Tuesday the 17th. But that gap up was all she wrote because it never saw the light of day after that open. It went straight down and it went straight down the day after as well. But of course, the point is that you guys understand is that price is trading away from 13.33. And this is why the market is doing all of this crazy stuff that it's doing. It's not like it's a magical thing, it's just the market's nature when we are in a higher than normal volatility regime. And that's all. It's not anything fancier than that. So you look at the 18th of December, what happens in the market? You get 1,000 point, 800 point move down. Huge, right? One way trade the whole day. The 19th, volatility is kind of trying to find its way because that was a pretty huge move. I mean, the market kind of snapped. That Wednesday, the market snapped. And that was the day that the Fed came out talking too. So the market was just building up into that move. But in reality, whatever happened Wednesday was so non-dramatic that the market had to rein itself in. So the expectation was louder than the consequence, if that makes sense. And this is what we kind of end up seeing in the market here, right? We have this drop pullback. We had a move to 21,000. The market followed through, found support, and got bid up nasty again. 2,000 points, 2,250 points almost. But now it's kind of struggling again, right? And we are still in that high volatility environment, and we are finding ourselves moving away once again from that 13.33 level. Because you got to see Tuesday, which was Christmas Eve, going into Christmas, market had a volatility crush scenario play down on it. Now, there's a difference between an increase in volatility and decrease in volatility, and what you call a severe expansion in volatility and volatility crush. This here, to go from 13.3 to 30 all the way back down to 14, 13 almost, that's what you, in a matter of hours, right? Because this all happened in a week. Within 5 days, all this stuff happened. That's quick. So that's called volatility crush. And when things volatility crush, you get huge moves like this because volatility hasn't really gone anywhere. It's just going in an opposite direction. It's like taking a breather, but it's still there. And this is really the end result. I mean, you get these wild swings. Yeah, I probably should have just zoomed in. This is much better. Yeah, yeah, this is much better. So this first candle that you're seeing on the right side, this is the 13th. 11, 12, 13. All right. And this is a 13 here. There we go. That's good enough. So two candles in, 13th over here, three candles in, 13th over here on the right side. Get rid of myself there. So this is just to give you guys a closer view, but this is important information. Now, why is that? Well, if you can understand what volatility is doing, you can have an understanding of what type of expectation you can have from the market itself, right? And that's ultimately the idea behind understanding what volatility is doing. If you got a grasp on, it's like this: if you know where the cops are going to be while you're on a road trip, you literally cannot be caught slipping, right? And that's to say that you'll never be caught um, such that you get a ticket. I mean, it's that simple. The only difference here is we're talking about not getting caught going off bounds, expecting a huge move to happen when it's just going to be a regular move, that type of thing. But if we're able to assess that volatility is increasing and understand its implications in line with what the market is doing, well, we can kind of give ourselves some type of guidelines with respect to what to expect, right? I mean, if you see the market ranging like it was here, then all of a sudden it gaps up on something like this. I mean, now we're looking at the E-mini S&P 500. We're not looking at the Nasdaq, but it's the same thought, right? Because the market is trading up into this, and then the into Christmas, this is all happening. So it's not like, I mean, it's just it's wild. It's wild. Um, so yeah, these are the types of things that help you grasp what's happening. Now let's look at what Bitcoin is doing while all this stuff is happening. Guide the market to this. So here's the 13th, right? On the 13th, we got an up day, Saturday, Sunday, and there's that gap up, right? All right, now this is one I'm gonna have to add a third one. Hold on, because so the gap up is Tuesday the 17th. This is Monday the 16th. Monday the 16th here, Tuesday. But let's see, Friday through Monday, the market had to play catch up because this is Friday. Saturday, nothing happened in Bitcoin. And then Sunday, it took off. So the market on Monday had to catch up to what Bitcoin did Sunday, in addition to Monday. At least that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. And then you have this imminent blow off top because the volatility is making it look like that's what it's doing. Because Bitcoin just ran because they're buying it up regardless, right? Like the instant, like the big boys, they're buying it. They're buying these coins regardless. At least that's the narrative that they're buying it every single day. So I don't know. I don't have access to. I don't see what they. I don't work there, and unless you're the one doing the buying, you really don't know if any of this is true. And the reason I say that is because in the digital world, it's very easy to fake what's real. And if you've been playing with AI, well, you know this very well because AI is just a filter system for what they want you to know or think is true. But, you got to actually know something that the AI doesn't, or that you don't actually need to learn from the AI, like crypto stuff. Like if you think you're going to learn that from AI, good luck because you're not. And that's kind of the thing about AI that a lot of people, they don't really get yet, especially if they're not well versed in the topic. You still have to know what you're trying to accomplish. It is not it's not a panacea, it's not a solution for all of our problems. It's just a tool. And I think that losing sight of that is pretty dangerous because there is no one thing that's going to remove humans from the equation except human belief. If you think humans can't be involved, humans won't be involved. That's something that we got to understand because it's not a human. It's not a brain. It can't do what we can do. It can only do what we tell it to do. So it's not really uh, that deep as far as having a grasp on what um, how do I say it? Having a grasp on what that tool is exactly. Is this a tool? It's like saying hammers are going to take over. Like, what? Are they? I don't think so. And they've been around for 100 years. And I don't really see anybody fearing a hammer takeover, but it's the same damn thing. Jesus Christ, it's literally the same thing. I need y'all to understand that. All right. So check it out, guys. We have a period of time, right? The 26th through the 7th of October. Look what Bitcoin does during that time. Basically, just ignores it. Stutter step sideways, basically, right? Until you get that big move, which, interestingly enough, nothing really happened as far as Bitcoin in the bottom until after legacy markets had bottomed 2 days before, in line with the VIX, or a day before, in line with the VIX. So it's not 1 to 1, right? Just because the stock market bottomed, which it really did until the 1st or 4th of November, doesn't mean that Bitcoin or whatever is done doing whatever it's doing. See, because Bitcoin seemed to have actually bottomed out 2 months before. Yep. While everything else is really just trending up. So, yeah. So, I know a lot of people like to tie Bitcoin to the regular market. And don't get me wrong, they're kind of related. But you kind of got to understand what the relation is. And the relation is one where they're selling you a story with Bitcoin, and the other one is really just a tool to control you because you don't understand money in the first place, right? That's the whole reason crypto exists, is because you don't understand money in the first place. And that's putting it in a very negative way, but it's true. If you understood money, we would need Bitcoin. We would stop people from creating fake money, which is obviously a problem. I don't, yeah, obviously. Uh, if you order a pizza pie and you get, 4 or 6 of that pie, but you paid for the whole thing, you're gonna be pissed. Plain and simple. But for whatever reason, because money is not visibly divided in your face, you don't have a problem with it. Same exact thing though. See the issue? So because you don't care about being robbed and stolen from, and of course not just you, the individual at home, but us as a society, it continues on. If everybody understood what was happening and verbalized it on social media, it would stop instantly. You think this H1B shit is not gonna end? Oh, it's gonna end with the quickness. Oh yeah, best believe. And Elon gonna be mad. But hey man, sucks to be you, bro. Hire Americans, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Help the system. Don't act like any system works, because there is no system that works. And that's on purpose. That's not by mistake. The people that come from those broken countries, how the fuck do you think they get out of a broken country? India is broken. All these countries are broken. But yet Somehow, all these people out of these countries managed to find their way to being super smart and not needing quote unquote handouts until they get here. Isn't that funny? And yet nobody notices that. I've noticed that a long time ago. Lebanon, Beirut, Palestine, back in the early 90s. Same deal. Wash, rinse, repeat. Iran, Syria, early 80s, you know, Russia, Germany, I mean, Ukraine. The list goes on. This is not the first time that we see waves of people coming into the country that are going to just deflate the value of our labor. This has been going on for decades. And this is the thing that people don't realize. They're just really catching on to it this fucking weekend. Or should I say this weekend? I mean, it's crazy. People are just catching on to this being a problem now. And I honestly don't know if it was just Elon with his tweety fingers or what, but people finally are seeing the obvious. Where does it end? It ends where you end it. And that's the thing that people need to understand. Now, if these people, and by these people, I mean Trump, Elon, and company, they're serious about the changing of the way things are. The easiest things to change and to cut are the things that haven't been around the longest, right? Very simple and straightforward. So, what does that mean in my mind? Well, in my mind, that means that getting rid of anything post 9/11 should be easy. Department of Homeland Security, TSA, all that shit. Get rid of it. Not necessary. And while you're dumping those useless organizations that are just the fucking Stasi in disguise, you can get rid of the ATF, IRS, all those related entities, because they're all related. It's one of those things that if you know, you know. Well, all those entities are under the same umbrella. Maybe not federally in terms of funding, but in terms of who points the finger and who they tell them, tells them what to do, it's the same finger, same umbrella. So they all got to go. The fact that the Chevron deference, for those that are not familiar, rejection. Let's see if it comes up. We talked about it when it happened on stream a while back. And Chevron, I forgot the spelling of deference. This essentially removes the power, and this happened, at the end of summer. This essentially removes the power from these lame duck federal agencies like the EPA. The EPA is probably one of the biggest abusers of its power. I mean, it was one of those entities that all it did was create more problems than solve. Simple. It did not ever add value whatsoever to life, period. And we see it clear as day in how our energy system, I mean, you just pick whatever facet you want of it, whether it's the cost, the way it runs, whatever. It don't work, period. Like things could be very different in all facets of society, but because these federal entities were allowed to make these rules and determine what was right and what was wrong and what made sense and what didn't. And all of these things, removed a lot of the power from the population, the people, because it gave it to them. And then at the same time, it was supposed to remove the power from these corporations, but it really kept it in their hands because what happened? Well, if you've been paying attention to how the CDC and the FDA work since 2020, you know full and well what I mean. It's called that infamous revolving door. All right. That revolving door is just these people that constantly go in and out of these same organizations, whether it's private or public, and they benefit on both sides. And it's a whole little gang of people, and they're all related, and they're all Jewish. Everybody knows it, but everybody acts like they don't know it. I mean, Jewish, Jewish. It's easy. Jewish. It's not even hard. It's really not. And no fault to those gentlemen, because maybe they're not the people that are the problem. But in general, those are the people that are the problem. But that's what the Chevron deference is. Um, I told you what it means. What comes next is whatever we don't know yet. But that's kind of the point of this Doge entity. Um, and I don't know if, because again, we're all on the outside looking in. I don't take anything as serious ever, especially when it's coming from any government entity. I mean, the fact that we got people asking for crypto regulation is hilarious. That doesn't do anything for society. Regulation does not improve society in any which way. If it did, we wouldn't have any fucking issues with all the regulations we have on paper. But guess what? Regulation is fucking stupid and pointless and fruitless if the people imposing it are fucking shitbags, which is what's true. And ultimately, it doesn't matter whose gang is doing it because they think they have a right to tell you what you can do with your money. So they're wrong because they literally don't have the right to tell you what to do with your money. So that's to say, if it's not zero taxes on all your money, they're wrong. Because anything other than that is usury. Period. And if you don't know what usury is, look it up. It's one of the most basic things in finance. And not even in finance, in the world. Find it funny that so many people profess to be knowledgeable in monetary matters and they don't even understand the most basic of things in regards to finance. All right, let's get back to the goodies here. So we already have a pretty solid idea of how this transmission mechanism is working, because this is what Bitcoin is supposed to represent. It's supposed to represent a transition of some sort from old to new, and Ethereum as well. The way this is working, as far as I can see, is that the big boys, the institutions, the Wall Street, they're buying Bitcoin and ETH right now. That's what they're buying daily, is what we're seeing. Um, there are a lot of entities that are not buying just that they're buying other stuff. But these are the main targets, that you can see if you look, I suppose, that they are buying. Now, I haven't done this yet, but it seems that there are wallet addresses out there that people can track and see that these entities are buying. I have not confirmed that they are in fact buying, so I'm not fully a believer of the narrative yet. However, uh, it's not a coincidence that the last time I streamed, the whole world was screaming buy Bitcoin, and if you did, you got left with the bag, and you're underwater at this point, right? Anybody that bought last week is down, and I streamed on the date in question. When you gotta understand how these things work. The idea is for you to only follow what the dumb box says. The idea, sadly, is that you don't have your own ideas. And this is why I, I don't react to anything narrative based or mainstream. I don't give a fuck who, what, where, when, or why. I was fortunate enough to find Hex the way I did, and because that's how I found it, that's how I stick to it. I know it's the right thing. I don't I've never ever found anything through the mainstream that has provided any value. I've never found anything really even through anybody else that provides value. So I don't know where people get this confidence to think that they're gonna find winners on CoinGecko and shit like that. Like, yo, don't get me wrong. Maybe they're there. I don't know. I've never looked. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to find them. I don't know. But I'm better off stumbling across the goods than putting myself in a position to take 8 losses just to find 2 winners. I'm not about that. I just like to win. So I rather take my time and not be in a rush to lose money. Because that's really what it is at the end of the day. It's being in a rush to lose money. So, why would you do that? Why would you buy something that you can't get whole units of? Nobody out here is buying, multiples of Bitcoin except for institutions. Unless they're already rich enough to buy multiples of Bitcoin, which in that instance, they probably don't know enough about crypto in the first place to be doing that dumbass shit because it's dumb. They don't know what they're buying. They don't. Unless you were fucking mining it 15 years ago, you really have no reason to be owning hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin at this price. Like, it's pretty fucking dumb. So, but that's one of those things that if you don't know, right, you think you're gonna sound smart and sophisticated and shit. Like BlackRock and them think that they sound smart and sophisticated and shit. But no, that's not what's true. What's true is buying it at zero and still having it when it's worth $500. That's what's fucking sophisticated. Those guys that were around, like Richard, that were mining BTC when it was fractions of a penny, where they would get 50 block rewards. Those are the guys that are fucking smart and sophisticated. Not the motherfuckers buying it in mass right now in 2024. They're fucking morons. They're the fucking idiots. But these are the people, somehow, that have the grip on the psychosis of the world. And I honestly don't know how else to put it, but that's how I'm framing it in my mind because there is no logic to wanting to be tracked and traced and probed and prodded. But yet this is what people seem to always choose for some fucking reason. I don't know. I don't care. Not my fucking problem. That's not what I choose. Um but this is what's true. That's what people pick. So, all right, we know the VIX doesn't really have a major impact on Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin probably has its own VIX. So, we can move on from that. Um, Now, as you guys know, I'm always promoting the trading of centrally organized markets because I understand that people are trying to make additional income and this and that and the third. And of course, you should have multiple streams of income. Now, I don't know if I've talked about this before, but I'll talk about it now. How I view people should structure their investment flows, their inflows for their investments. Um, People are going to do what they want to do, but this is how I think of it. This is my opinion here, strictly. I am of the frame of mind that crypto is only for the long term. It is not to be trading. It is not a vehicle for quick money. That isn't to say that you can't profit from it within a short time frame, because of course you can, right? We've already seen that. But just understand that a short time frame is not the same day. It's not even a couple of weeks. I'm talking about, months, at least half a year. That's the kind of time frame I'm talking about, because those are where the really sizable gains are going to come from. The longer you hold, even if it's during a cycle, the better off you are, because you're allowing for price appreciation. You're allowing for the price to go up as fully as possible. It's really that simple. The longer you hold, the higher price will go, because the dollar only goes one way, right? But now we're at a point where you got to ask yourself, how much lower can that dollar go if it's already zero? What exactly is happening at this point in time? That's important to understand, because there's a lot of different ways for this reality to express, to express it. Realization that assets are assets, and there's a lot of different buckets in regards to assets out there, right? This is kind of why people are so afraid of hex, specifically, because A, they don't understand it, because B, they can't do math, and C, they don't really want to learn anything. I mean, the average adult, and this is crazy because I've really been seeing this a whole lot more lately, in person anyway. The average adult, like, they abhor having to learn, because people think that they already did the 12 years of school. So why do they have to learn some more? Not understanding that they didn't learn a fucking thing in school. This is why the training continues after school, because you didn't learn shit in school at all. That was not the purpose of school whatsoever. The purpose of school is to teach you how to fucking follow orders, not even to follow instructions, just orders. Say yes. And that's it. That's all school was about. Um, Now, this chart on the right, and you know what? Let me get rid of all that. We don't really need this anymore. We're gonna just take a look at natural gas. Um, and again, we're talking about how I view a whole portfolio, right? Like your financial situation. This is how I view it. Um, Financial markets, stocks, bonds, futures, currencies, credit, crypto, all these different things, they serve a purpose. And the fact of the matter is that the majority of those items that I mentioned, other than crypto, I'm not really sure that they're needed. Think about it. What is money? Money is a way to remove friction from the exchange of goods and services. But we don't treat it like that. Right? We don't treat it like that. And why is that? In my mind, that's because we don't really understand that that's what it is. Some people treat money like it's this, I don't know, like it has this, like if it's this thing, like this thing that's alive. And don't get me wrong, money is alive to a certain extent, but you're actually living. So you control it. You control how you get it. You control your ability to get to it. You control all these things about your relationship with money, right? And some people just act like money is this thing that is something they can't ever get their hands on. But man, if only they just stopped for a second, learned something, and then tried to apply it to see how it worked or did not. And I know it's a lot, but man, that's how it works. That's how it works. I have this thing that I'm trying to sell on my website, the premium service thing. That thing, it can make or break you. Because it gives you the answers to the test before you take the test. Now, me personally, I suck at having the answers to the test before the test. As stupid as that sounds. I'm like the guy that will always fail the open book version of the test because I didn't like looking for the answers. In this case, we're talking about having the answers beforehand. How do you act knowing you have the answers beforehand and all you have to do is wait? Are you not gonna wait? And we already know the answer for most people is no. I mean, this is the thing that money exposes. It exposes your bad habits, right? So what you're looking at right now is a chart of natural gas futures. Natural gas futures, when you go from $10 to $9, that's $10,000 in profit for you. Now, let me explain exactly how that works. Futures profit and loss calculator. I'm gonna have one of these on my website because this is actually hard to find, believe it or not. Calculator. I just want you guys to understand what's out there for you to take advantage of. Because crypto, it doesn't take a lot to get a lot out of crypto. And if you are just not aware, uh, you're not gonna know. And you guys might not be aware. So let me help you figure it out. Let's say you bought at 9 and then it goes to 10. And the number of contracts is 1. You're gonna now see the number of ticks is 1,000, number of points is 1, and the dollar amount is just like I told you, 10,000. Now, just like you can make 10,000, of course, you could lose 10,000. This is why it's important to understand risk, especially when it comes to trading any instrument. Because look at this. This was at the beginning of 2024. The market went from basically $10, $9, yeah, $10.02, $10.02, all the way down. That's from 2022, all the way down to $1.50. Now, let's take a look at what this actually did on the contract. So the contract itself was only at $5 at that time. So the confusing thing about futures for a lot of people is how these contracts change over time. You see, the high price was $5 and change, but here you're seeing $10. So that's the spread between the front month and whatever month that was when I picked on that contract. Because I don't even remember. I didn't look at it. But all of that stuff ties into the analysis of the market and where the prices are going in the future. And those are called spreads. And we've talked about it before with regards to interest rates. This is what it looks like on the right side here right now for natural gas. But that's right now. That stuff is not permanent. This is impermanent. This changes every single day with every single session. So it could very well be that one day the trend is up versus down. But right now the trend is down. But the way it works is that as time progresses, the market moves in accordance with the bias of the curve. And moving into 2025, 2027, the bias is up. However, after that, it's down. So for now, you can expect, regardless of the weather, because the weather is definitely getting colder. And I think we've talked about that before. But we've hit the quote unquote solar minimum or whatever. But the reality is that the expectation is we're entering into this colder phase of weather. And it has to do with the sun just, I don't know how to describe it yet, but once I figure it out, I'll relate it. But the claim is that the sun is not as strong as it was. Um, because that's what they try to say is solar minimum. That's what they try to mean by it. But you can be assured that that's probably just more stuff to throw you off. And I just haven't figured out the actual explanation yet. But anyways, back to this. So when did this hit $3? This hit $3 19th November. And it ended up hitting $4 after some nice volatility, of course, all the way back to the entry. And then it went straight to $4 in a matter of days. Very nice. I mean, and that's 10 G's per contract, right? And the thing is everybody would like to make 10 G's easily, without any stress. But how do you do that? A lot of people don't want to learn nothing, and they think they're gonna make money by not learning something. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but crypto isn't even going to save you from that. It's not. We like to think it can, but no, no. And at the same time, why not pick up a skill that pays a lot of the bills? I mean, we're talking about $10 a tick here. 1,000 ticks at $10 is $10,000. So it's $10 a tick in natural gas. $5 a tick in Nasdaq. This is the one I trade primarily. Crude oil is $10 a tick. 100 ticks is $1,000. Um, and this is a great market to trade. I just don't know. Don't trade it often. I just like the way the Nasdaq trades, but it's a great market to trade if you don't like to trade the Nasdaq. That's basically what I'd say. It would be my second. It's my second preferred market. Um, Bonds, I like to just set it up and let it go because you can't watch this market. It's slow. Um, and what I mean by that is, the ranges are just not as big, but the ticks are. So one tick in the bond market move is $31.25. That's one of the bigger values per tick in the market. So if the market goes against you 4 ticks, which does it's not a lot, a tick is the equivalent of a penny move in a stock. Think about that. So if a stock moves a tick, that's 1 cent. In a futures market, it's never 1 cent. Never ever. It's I think the smallest in a regular contract is like $5. I'm trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure that's it. I think it's $5 is the smallest. Um, but like the standard is like $10. This one is $31.25. That's a 30-year. The 10-year is $15.62.5. Natural gas is $10 a tick. Even the VIX futures, I think, is $10 a tick. I know that the dollar futures is $10 a tick. S&P 500 futures is $12.50 a tick, and 1 point is 4 ticks, so a point is $50. Gold is $10 a tick. 10 ticks is a point, so $100 a point for futures for gold futures. And crude oil is $10 a tick. 100 ticks, 100 cents for $1. That's a point. And that makes $1,000 per point. And the Nasdaq futures is $5 a tick, four ticks a point. But as you guys can probably tell by the big moves on this chart, um, you get a lot of moves, a lot of points in one session. And that's why the Nasdaq is such a popular instrument to trade. It gives a lot of room for a lot of money making. And as you guys know, I have these level things that I'm always talking about. Hold on, because you guys can't see. Oops. Let me clean up this chart here. But yeah, there's these levels, and these levels are, they really they do the do. And the idea behind the levels is that there's a derivatives market somewhere, and that derivatives market is liquid. We're going to be able to use it to identify what a market is capable of doing and what it's not capable of doing, and all that fun stuff. Because everybody wants to know how far and how low a market's going to go. And if you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I've been doing this um talk about it, but now I'm talking about it. And this level thing, these volatility levels, they work. So it's an opportunity for you to take advantage of maybe not knowing something, learning something, so you can actually apply it. Because level to the next, that's like 100 points on average. Hold on, guys. All right. So back to this. Um, the idea is that you try to give yourself a framework for which to work with, or an idea to structure the market, some way to give the market structure. And You could trade from level to level, or you could just hold on and see what the market does throughout the day, understanding that the market is moving. Because the market, if it's going from one level to the next, and it's clearly in the trend mode. But if it's going sideways and doing nothing, you see how it's just hugging this level, and it clearly is not doing anything. But then if it's swinging around from from one direction to another, well, then it's moving around, right? It's not just in this void where you're just looking at price and there's nothing happening. You're just looking at moving averages. There's nothing there. When you got these levels on the screen, there's context with regards to what's happening in the market. It's not just happening, so it's a little different. Once you understand what these levels are and what they're telling you, um, but that comes with time. Once you start learning this stuff. But again, the idea is if you're looking at something like nat gas, right? Now, I don't put the levels on nat gas all the time because that's just too much work. So it's just easy to throw on there. Pretty sure I did it already, but I don't remember where it is. Price based charts, not time based charts. So, um, a chart that shows you data from August to the day in time terms probably doesn't look like that. Let's see. Yeah, nah, nothing like that. This is the closest representation of what I just had, and it doesn't look at all the same. Nah. So there's the big difference. That's why I look at price based charts. I want to know when price is moving, not what time it is. I can look at the clock whenever I want. So I don't really need the chart to tell me that. Um, so we have the lower end of this range being $2.19, and the higher end being $3.60. Right, and this is over a period of a quarter, give or take. Right, a little more than 90 days. Now we already discussed that from 2 to 3 is $10,000. Right. Now, if we're talking about having an opportunity to extract $16,000 two ways, up and down, you have the opportunity to extract thousands of dollars from this market, time and time again. Nobody can stop you. All you have to do is understand which direction the market is going, and that's the easy part. The hard part is waiting to jump in the pool, because if you jump in too soon, you might just hurt yourself. Jumping in late is always better than jumping in too soon. And the reason for that is because you don't feel any pain from only making money. There's pain from being in a trade from the moment the trade starts in your head and seeing the trade go against you, right? And it doesn't matter if you're talking about buying Bitcoin or fucking buying a futures trade or whatever. It doesn't matter. Nobody ever wants to see that thing go red, period. And I'm sure you can all agree to that. So it's the same deal, right? The difference in futures is that at the end of the day, if you don't exit your position, it's always mark to market. There is no escaping it. It's not like stocks where there is like a paper trade element to it. Nah, like that cash is going to be taken out of your account that day. So you gotta be ready to pay. Um, so yeah. So let me see something. I think yeah. do have levels here. So let's see. 319. Give me a second, guys. I'm trying to see something here. 319 would have been, yeah, I don't know for this day. Market didn't go anywhere. 108464. Just went to the first level. Yep. Yeah. So, what's the purpose of these levels? Originally, in my mind, it was to try to determine when the market was going to move because markets always go sideways. And that's kind of what you're seeing in the screen in front of you right now. You have one, two, three, four, 5 sessions where the price is essentially going sideways, even though it is kind of going up and then it's kind of going down. But that's from one trading session to the next. So when you look at this in aggregate, right, if we threw a profile at the end of this period of time, you'll see that the majority of it is going to be up here. Watch. It'll probably change at some point. Boom, there you go. So that's what I mean. The aggregate price activity happened in this range, and that's it. It didn't really go anywhere. And that's what you end up seeing. Now, I zoomed out a little bit, and you'll see that there's more price activity down here. And you'll see that even yet and still, this area peaks out the most. You see? So that's how we can say that this market is just ranging right now. But if we expand the visible range of the market, it's not going to look exactly like that because now we're incorporating a whole lot more activity into what we're visually seeing. And as such, we're going to see that over here as well with respect to what the market has been doing as far as the trade patterns and where the price has been more so than not. And that's why we have so much more volume down here than up here, right? And we even have value being shown to be in this range, interestingly enough, because that's where most of the activity has happened. Now, the thing I'm trying to impress upon you guys is, day to day, there's opportunity in these markets. And I'm just showing you nat gas randomly. I don't even trade nat gas. But the fact remains, it doesn't matter what market we're talking about. Let me throw the levels on here with this one. Just so you guys can see. Uh Come on, man. Here we go. Um, Throw that on there. Oh, what? Whoops. All right. Wanna be a pain in my ass. Let's go with 254. Yep. All right. That is the settlements area. We will give it a buffer zone shortly. What did I say? 234. Yeah. All right. I just want to essentially show how this works, regardless of the market. Really is, I guess, the goal here. Um, All right, now let's zoom in a bit here. So this is the settlement. I guess we can do, yeah, 5 ticks above, 5 ticks below. Um, And these buffer zones that I end up picking, there's no science behind them. They just whatever looks good because it should. Um, it should respect volatility first and foremost. Um, 3 3 0 1 2 3. Yeah, so we didn't even go outside of the first of just sideways range territory, right? And that's really just that's it. This is kind of what you want when you're trading a market. You want to understand what the limits are. It's like this: when you're walking up to a casino and you're going to play any game in the casino, you want to know when to sit down and when to get up. And that's what these levels give you, in short. And I'm pretty sure they work for any market with derivatives. But the idea is to keep it, yeah. Let me see something here. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. All right. Let's see what we got here. That 234 is what it was. Let's see here. 3946. Oh, contract switch. Hate when that happens. We'll have to use a different value. Uh, Give me a second, guys. I gotta figure out what the correct value should be given the contract switch. January, February. Three three one nine 349 3.499 3.356 3.41 3. All right. Let's see here. Okay, let's fix that because that's actually wrong. That's actually wrong. This is also wrong. 3499 34. That should be 504. And this should be 494. And that's because you got this buffer zone around the actual level. Now, the buffer zone is there to provide reality because nothing happens in a precise fashion. Everything is kind of imperfect when it comes to the markets. And that's the idea behind the buffer zone. We could pretend to know the exact level. And yeah, sure, we do. But why not give ourselves room for error? I don't understand that. It's not even realistic. So you kind of just gotta let the market do its thing. And that's how you do it. By respecting the reality of the market and the fact that nothing is, perfect. There is no, what I'm doing is literally cutting edge. Like, this is the tip of the spear as far as figuring out who, what, when, where, and why. Because nobody has this now this quantitative framework. It literally doesn't exist, and if it exists, nobody's letting it out of the bag. But as far as I know, it doesn't exist. And I'm gonna tell you what, given the amount of money that these businesses spend, I'm pretty confident it doesn't exist because they wouldn't spend any more if they had it. Because this is it. This is this is the pinnacle. Now, why would I make that claim? Well, if you understand that markets are fluent, markets are dynamic, there is nothing static about markets, which means you have to keep up with this every day. These things are going to change every day because the market's going to do something different every day. One day is going to go up, one day is going to go down, one day is not going to do shit, right? And you get a lot of those days. But the whole point is, how do you extract value from the market when the market doesn't go anywhere? How do you do that? Well, you got to know that it's not going anywhere in the first place. And there's only one way to do that, and that's by having an idea of what the bounds are. But how do you give yourself that idea? That's not easy. I mean, are you guys paying attention to how this level, these levels are just falling into place? You got to realize that cannot be made up. That has to come from somewhere. And I'm pretty confident nobody has that. There's variations of this, but nothing like this because I've been looking. And again, we're talking about on this day in question. What was I always get this wrong. I think it's where is it? Oh, okay. I always lose it. 317 ticks. That's $3,000 in one day. And of course, nobody's up at 3 in the morning. But if you understand, damn, uh, how to use the levels, you don't got to be up at 3 in the morning. You just put your order up there, so that shit doesn't matter, right? But that's just it. It's just about understanding. Just about understanding what the markets are doing, why they're doing it, and how you can benefit from it. Because there isn't just crypto. There's a lot of different other markets out there, and they exist for a reason. So, the stock market. What the hell is going on with the stock market? It keeps running. I think it keeps running. I think that as long as the Fed keeps pumping, the market keeps going up. We've talked about this numerous times before. And no matter what, the market just keeps going up. So don't expect that to change anytime soon. We talked about this last time, and the market is outside of the rails that we drew last time we streamed. It's down there, it's hanging. So it's in the danger zone. Permanent. Um, oh, breaking news. Just so y'all know, Trump apparently sides with Musk on the H-1B visa debate. So that's what's going on there. I'm sure his words might have been taken out of context. I don't know. But Anyway, the market is outside of the rails, which means theoretically that it should continue its trajectory downward. Now, I'm expecting sentiment, all of that, to conflict with this expectation, along with these positive divergences that we have setting up here. Um, I expect all of this to coalesce into some form of a bottom. Um, Now, I'm going to be honest in saying that the market is not structured to bottom out just yet. So we got to wait um, to see what the market is going to do exactly. Because right now it's really still just kind of hanging around in the sense that it could still make new lows um, until it actually starts consolidating in this range. We can't be relatively sure that there's going to be any type of culmination in this downward move just yet. But it's happening. Now crude's been interesting because it's kind of been consolidating, um, and it looks like it wants to bottom out. With the volatility has essentially disappeared from this market. The divergence is just getting bigger and bigger by the day, and it seems like volume is ready to come in out of nowhere to hit positive. So a lot of things are just lining up on a bullish front for crude. So, this ties into what we were talking about before I started coming into how I view portfolios and how you should structure them and all that stuff. Um, and, long story short, futures are great to extract value from if you know how to do it on a time basis. Now, what I mean by that is, if you have access to something like my volatility levels, which work regardless of the market, um, I have it on NQ just like I have it on uh, natural gas and bonds and whatever else. Um, but that's because it works, right? So because it works, you can use it on all these different markets. But you got to understand what the market is doing, right? Because having a pit stop for the market doesn't mean much if you don't understand what the market is doing. It's just a place where you're going to get stopped out at, basically. Um, so if the market is finding itself, like, in my mind, 2025, it's going to be an interesting year because a lot of things that don't make sense, I think, are going to happen. Um, like, I think we're going to continue to see a rise in stock prices probably through 2026. Um, I don't know exactly what's going to happen with CRE. I think Trump might come in and try to save that segment of the market because he's a real estate developer by nature. That's the world he comes from. So I don't see how he doesn't try to save that market. That's my expectation, my thought on that. Uh, as far as the dollar and its value, it's zero already. It can only go to zero. I mean, at this point, they would have to reissue the dollar and stuff like that. Like you can't just save it um, because it's damaged. They would have to restructure the system. Right now, the dollar is at a pretty solid extreme. Um, yeah, I was afraid it was setting up in the opposite of crude, and that's what it looks like. You have negative divergences showing up, um, just the opposite of what you're seeing in the bonds and in crude, literally. So it would be interesting to see 2025 be the year where rates go down, crude values, petroleum, the cost of raw petroleum goes up, when everybody's expecting rates to go up, inflation to be sticky, which inflation is not going anywhere. I think people are not understanding the problem of being a reserve currency and not taking advantage of your own resources, which is the position America finds itself in, which is exactly where, you know, these people want every country that they dominate. They want every country that they dominate to be subject to ridiculous contracts that don't make any fucking sense, which only benefit those that impose the contracts. So, anyway, so you get these ridiculous trade deals and agreements and whatnot, like NAFTA and shit. Anyway, um, so in my mind, when you look at the bond market and you look at what the dollar has done and whatnot, it would not be surprising to see these markets essentially go the complete opposite way that they've been going, because everybody's expecting them to not do that. Everybody's expecting them to just continue going. It's just that a lot of the things in the market are set up for those things to not continue. Uh, um, gold is really hard for me to call right now because it's one of those things where you would think this thing would just take off already. And with Trump coming into the picture, it seems like it's taking a breather to try to see what Trump's going to do or say. And I think that worst case scenario, this just ends up being a bull flag, which is kind of crazy to say. Like, I'm afraid to say that because I just can't imagine how we have an unviable monetary system at this point. And, you know, what we see when we see the dollar is or shall I say, the motion in the price of the dollar, what we see is honestly just or what the market perceives is the political whim of the dollar, right? Because these currencies are ultimately political instruments because they're not things of value, right? Like that's important to understand because that's the true barometer of these currencies. That's why when you look at spot effects, when you're looking at all of those crosses, hold on, or okay, sometimes a function of the strength or the weakness of that relationship, depending on what the function of that relationship is. So, for example, the Aussie yen, everybody knows the Australian economy is in the toilet. It's not a strong economy. However, the Japanese yen serves a very specific function in the global economy. And as such, you typically want to see a currency rising against the yen. Now, how do you confirm this? Well, what do we see with the dollar yen? The same thing. What do we see with the and this is just really not a great example, but it's really the same thing. Because over time, 75 to 88 is a higher value, right? So same deal. Pound versus the yen, same thing. Euro versus yen, same thing. Swiss franc versus yen, same thing. If not even greater. That's crazy. I remember looking at that pair in college and salivating over how high I was gonna go, and look at where it is now. Canadian yen, same thing. So the countries that are not that don't have a chart that's similarly structured, they're in a bad way. And I don't have any on in my list, but just making a point. And it's like understanding all these things, maybe not directly, but somewhat directly. It's kind of like when I would talk about the dollar versus the Swiss franc and its significance, right? And how people don't really realize how much of an important barometer this currency pair is with respect to how things are doing or going economically, whether it's good or bad. And look, we don't even get a whole picture here. But suffice it to say, when it's traveling downward, it's not good. So you actually want it to go up versus the Swiss franc. Because this means that people are selling dollars to get out of the American economy. That's what this means. Because we're not talking about against Japan or some other podunk economy. We're talking about Swiss, talking about, at least in the eyes of the market, we're talking about Switzerland, which in finance is like the cream of the crop. So that's the difference between dollar Swiss franc and the dollar and the Canadian dollar, right? Right? So those are the types of things that you can appreciate once you come to learn them, because they're important relationships. Now let's look at what Hex is doing to wrap this bad boy up. And this is just Hex on ETH, and this is 34 days, and this thing is really just. I really hope people have been taking advantage of time, because that is all you can do. People, yeah, that. How can I say this without sounding like I'm repeating myself? T shares are there for a reason. And if you understand what a T share is, then you don't really, and you understand that crypto should be the long term holding piece in your portfolio and not just something that you treat like you should have a portfolio that's structured in terms of time and when you exit, not in terms of the assets. The assets should be a function of the time and how you treat them. I hope that makes sense. So, for example, crypto is you should just replicate the buy and hold strategy with crypto. You should not be in and out of crypto. You should not be day trading crypto. You should not be intermediately trading crypto. You should not be in and out in a few years of crypto. You should be holding it at least 10 years. Period. That's in my mind how you should look at crypto. Everything else is less than that. Whether it's stocks, whether it's options, whether it's bonds, doesn't matter. Everything is less than that, less than 10 years. Because unless you're buying in early or you have some understanding of what's going on, you should have no expectation of other people actually being good steward. Like In other words, you're not going to find many Berkshire Hathaways and whatnot. So you shouldn't expect that that's going to be the norm. Even if you think you found yourself the Apple, the whatever. Because even Apple had its up and downs. Apple didn't only just go up. Apple went up and down. Amazon went up and down. Google's the one thing that probably didn't go up and down, just went up. But everything else has its ups and downs. But as understand, and this isn't even the whole chart, right? This is the whole chart. And of course, we're just talking about X. Now, imagine if you could buy and stake Bitcoin. I mean, you guys have to realize Hex is not as old as Bitcoin. It's a fraction of his age. And it's going through the same growing pains that Bitcoin and Ethereum went through. Literally the same. And I stopped talking about this because it gets tiring repeating the same thing over and over and over. But the story is still true. Um, looks like on my chart you have the point at which price will stop going lower, probably. But of course, do your own work, do your own analysis, right? But just understand that it's possible to get out of whatever financial situation you're in if you exercise patience, work on your psychology, and realize that the reason you don't make money is because of how you view certain things. It's not necessarily the things you're interacting with, it's you, because you're never going to be satisfied, you know, like for the longest time, just to use myself as an example, I made it my business to try to find, when the market was doing this, and when it was doing this, and when it was doing this, and when it was doing that. And while it's useful to a certain extent, the reality is that all that friction is a waste of time. And what I mean is, unless you're actively engaging the market such that you're exiting here, entering there, exiting here, entering whenever it bottoms again, you know, you're just wasting time waxing philosophical about tops and bottoms, which is what a lot of people like to do online, which is fine, it's cool, whatever. But it doesn't add value to you and your bottom line. You know, I don't know if people would just prefer to talk online and not actually do stuff. But in my day, we did stuff, even if we just talked about it online. So, I don't know if that's just a new thing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really interact with people like that. So I don't know. But even if we're just saying things, we actually follow through on them. Is kind of my point. And that's pretty much it, man. So understand what T shares are. Understand that betting on crypto is betting against government failure. It's not really about getting rich. Uh, Getting rich is a function of governments failing because we can bet that governments are going to continuously do this here because this is pretty important to understand. This is exactly why crypto exists. Yeah, that blue line, that blue line is indexed on the right side of the chart. So that means that this blue line is showing you how government has spent 200,000 times what it started spending. So over time, the baseline is in the 1930s. And that's represented by the zero. And above that zero somewhere, there's 100. But you can't see that. And I should have set this to logarithmic, but it's fine. Let's see here. Format. Set both those puppies a log. So the blue line is our focus. The blue line is what the government essentially spends in layman terms. Federal net outlays. That means it's not bringing anything in. It's only spending. This is why Bitcoin went and made the similar move on the chart, right? This is why you can come here and be like, all right, let me get that big stamp joint up. 2015. This is what the goal should be when you're thinking about crypto. And you guys got to realize that this chart started at zero, not $2, not a dollar, less than a cent, less than a cent. And the only thing that's driven it to this point, and I talked about this last time, is the cost of mining it, the difficulty to mine it. That's what creates this price value. And the more difficult the blocks become to mine, with time, I think we're probably at three and an eighth now. Bitcoin block reward schedule. I'm pretty sure we're at three and an eighth now because we were at six and a quarter, and we're definitely past May 2024, which was the last time um, that the thing was supposed to change over. The halving block was supposed to change up. See, 2028 is the next date for the next halving, and as of now, the block reward is 3 and 1/8 block, or 3 and 1/8 coin per block. Excuse me, and will decrease to 1 and 5/8 coins per block, and that's 4 years from now. So you know you got time. If you're out there trying to mine Bitcoin for whatever odd reason. Because again, only companies can afford to do this now. But back in our day, us young bucks, you know, we could do it back then. I was too dumb to. I could not, but a lot of people did. A lot of people definitely did. And this is what gives you the price of Bitcoin. This is why people lean on that stock to flow model. Bitcoin stock to flow. Let's see here. And I mean, I'm sorry for these streams being so long, but I'm covering so much stuff that they cannot be short. So, yeah, maybe I'll do a bunch of different streams instead. So, the only way to make it shorter. There we go. So, you guys see, we talked about this before. I mean, the price is way off from the model. So, even though they're trying to quote unquote manipulate it, they still cannot. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it exactly because I don't really think about it. But I'm sure if I think about it, I'll come to some type of conclusion why this gap is there, why it's so wide. I honestly think it's because that last top was a bad one. I mean, you guys got to realize the amount of money that was spent on stupid shit like JPEGs and NFTs. I mean, that's money that's never coming back to this market ever. And they came in expecting to get rich off of this Bitcoin type shit, but it just never happened. And this is why. Now, that's not to say, and maybe 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 it catches up when the rest of the institutions come into play. When it's really no holds bar and Trump decrees Bitcoin a reserve asset, and now all of a sudden, all of these corporations find themselves in the need and desire to want to have to purchase Bitcoin. And you got to realize, right, it's all going to be proportional. So we're talking about these entities buying all of these different entities. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of corporations buying that do international business, buying million here, a million there, of Bitcoin, a few million of Bitcoin or ETH, whatever it ends up being. Maybe it won't even be that. Maybe they'll just buy stable coins and not bother with the Bitcoin. Or maybe they'll do 50-50 and use the Bitcoin as a balance sheet buffer and the USDC for international actual transfers of value. I don't know. But 2025 is going to be interesting. People are being exposed more than ever to the injustices of corporations, which is interesting because I never thought that I would see people complain about labor practices, and that's what we're seeing today. And that's a good thing because people, and again, I'm a son of immigrants. I'm a first generation American. We started out talking about this. All those quote unquote white things now affect me too because I'm just here living like a regular ass fucking American. I don't pick no sides. I'm just fucking here. uh so here we go. Mainstream media pounces as MAGA versus technocrats. H1 bomb explodes ahead of Trump inauguration. And we got to understand that this problem transcends Elon Musk. This problem transcends the Bushes. This problem goes back to the Institute of the Department of Education. Once that institution was invoked and put into existence, that's when this became a thing. But and this is a function of society and how we raise ourselves. Really, nobody thinks down the line. Nobody understood the problem of centralization at the time. I really wish they did, but man, they don't. And people still look for it. They clamor for it, and I don't understand why. Like you got all these Bitcoiners applauding government governments buying them out. Basically, they don't understand what Bitcoin's about, and I'm afraid that the majority of the population has no clue what crypto's about. They just really think it's a get rich quick scheme, and I understand why they think that. Don't get me wrong. But from an educational standpoint, it's imperative that people understand that that's just a transition into a collapse. That's not progress. I'm sorry. And that's what's true. That's just a transitional move into collapse, into a societal collapse. Because we already have money. We don't need 50 currencies, yo. We don't need 50 currencies. And you as an individual need to wrap your mind around that statement. because that's the fluidity in what you're doing and playing with. And I'm a proponent of crypto, but you have to understand what the actual problem is because for a long time, in my mind, crypto was bullshit, just like most people. And it took me watching Bitcoin going from, and I had the opportunity, the last time I was like, am I going to get back in? Because I was in Bitcoin when it was worth nothing and I got out. I made a few cents. And the last time I had the opportunity to buy Bitcoin, like seriously, because I knew that was it in my head anyway. I think it was it here? Or was it here? I think no, it wasn't that high. But I remember this period of time though. I think it was this time. Yeah, it was this time. $100 or so. Yep. It was around this time, 2013. I mean, I knew this. I had this instinct. I didn't know, but I had this instinctual feeling that this thing wasn't coming back at this price. We're talking about 80, $100. Back in October 2013, I had no idea what I was really feeling because look at where the price is now. Goddamn. I mean, if you only have one, it was a good trade. Like you guys got to understand that because we are talking about $100 and $90,000. All right, I think beat a dead horse here, and it's important we understand that 2025 is going to see more truth bombs come out in multiple ways. And the media is going to frame it in the most distasteful ways possible, and you just have to learn to not rock with that. um, you got to realize what's going on. I mean, look at this. This is the narrative. America rose to greatness over the past 150 years. It's 2024, so he's going back to 1875. Okay, because it was a meritocracy more than anywhere else on earth, which is not true. I will fight to my last drop of blood to ensure that it remains that land of freedom and opportunity. I mean, it sounds good, but if you're a student of history, you know damn well that shit is not true. And it's still not because if you go outside right now, you cannot sell some socks on the corner. And everybody knows that. Even the Mexicans that come here know this. So how the fuck does Elon pretend to not? And this motherfucker runs companies and shit. So you got to understand when you're being lied to. I mean, check this out. Because this is what's really happening, and people do not want to see it. And it's been obvious for decades. I knew this when I was a little kid. This is not news, people. This shit here, as my man Cat Williams would say, this shit here, nigga, is not news. This is not news. They've been doing this to people for decades. You just ain't been looking. I mean, we're talking about golf all across America. Golf. Come on, man. And people are out here pretending to know shit. And this is why I do not respect people claiming to be adults when they don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about half the time. But I'm the one that's wrong or crazy or whatever people like to say and make up. But they don't know this basic ass shit. That's basic. I mean, basic as basic can be. They don't understand simple labor issues in their own country in which they live and purports to understand. This is America in 2024. These are the people with thousands of views and follows and clicks and all that shit. These are the pronounced experts. Mind who you follow, mind your sources, mind your inputs. Because at the end of the day, you have to distill information. You don't just take it as fact. If you're taking any information as fact and not coming to your own conclusions, where you can have your own original thought, well, you're going to disagree with whatever somebody that has more money than you says, because that's how our society works, literally. From October 2020, and this was sent out today, I guess. Yeah. The Trump administration is taking action to tighten foreign worker visa requirements and protect American workers. Trump and his administration are protecting American workers by reforming requirements governing the H-1B visa program. Yeah. At least somebody noticed. At least somebody noticed. But very much disagree with this action. In my experience, these skill sets are net job creators. Visa reform makes sense, but this is too broad. And look, from a business ownership perspective, I get it. You don't want to spend more than you have to on labor. Labor is a big cost of doing business. It's the biggest cost of doing business, in fact. And I get that. But you know what? There's such a business up elsewhere, bro. Nobody's going to be mad. Just set it up in India if you want to pay Indians. You know what I'm saying? It'll work out better anyway, because you really be paying less, a whole lot less. And you don't got to import motherfuckers and deal with all that other crazy shit. Now, so far, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg have been quiet on the subject, and perhaps this chart explains why. H-1B petitions is a percentage of total head count. Total H-1B petitions. Amazon, and if you guys know, Amazon probably has 300,000 people on their workforce, maybe 100,000. I don't know. Meta, not as big. I think they have less than 100,000 employees, maybe 50,000. Um, but as you guys can tell, they're up there in terms of scaling. And, again, it's about understanding how this problem came to be. I do not judge anybody that's here from abroad that took advantage of this opportunity and put in the work. No, that'd be ridiculous. Right? I mean, that's stupid. But it's important to understand how this problem occurred. Because now a lot of these people that we're sitting here pointing fingers at, they're happy to be here. They're happy to be American. They're not fucking hating on being here. So we have to be very careful about what language we use when we talk about these topics and how they came to be. We have to understand that it's everybody's fault, period. You know, these individuals were allotted a way in because we fell asleep at the wheel and allowed government to make us dumber. And I say us, and I wasn't even born yet when this happened, but I was here and suffered the consequences of that action because I was a function of the Department of Education's program. I had to educate myself. I had to lift myself up and make myself better because they weren't going to do it. They didn't want to do it. In fact, I should be in jail or dead. That's a fact. Because when I was growing up, that was the goal for my generation. And it's well known. And now it's public information. If you know anything about what rap was supposed to do, then you know. But that's what it was for. So the fact that I'm not in jail and that I am capable of explaining all these topics is a major loss for them people because I'm not supposed to be capable of this at all. Anyway, um, so understand the big picture, understand how we got here, understand that it's not anybody's fault that's in those seats taking advantage of that opportunity because that would be crazy. right? Understand that we have to work with what we have and ensure that we protect ourselves moving forward. Because, like I said, I'm a first generation American. My father and mother came here from somewhere else, so they were a part of this degradation of the American labor force. Funnily enough, and here I am saying we when it ain't really we, is it? It's a funny conundrum that we live in, where life is a paradox. It's a series of paradoxes. Um, it's important we understand that. All right, guys. I think 2 hours and 20 minutes is good enough. Um, if you guys got any questions or anything before we wrap it up, drop them in the chat. Don't forget, I am working on marketvolatility.org. I am also working on a domain name generator slash business intelligence tool. It was just going to be a domain name generator, but I had to upgrade it because it wasn't just sitting right with me as a simple domain name generator tool. So we're working on that. That's coming along swimmingly. Website's coming along swimmingly. Um, and I know I keep promising a feature set and an upgrade to this because I'm sure this is pretty corny to look at all the time still. But in the meantime, understand, read through this. Put yourself in the contact list if you want to be on it. Um, gonna be lots of goodies on here. There's going to be a glossary. There's going to be a game to help you learn how to trade or understand markets, really, or how to operate in markets. Um, there's going to be news feeds. There's going to be just a treasure trove of goodies. I'm going to have something called a knowledge graph, which is not really widespread, but it's cool as fuck. And it's how I envision things in my head. And hopefully you guys like it too, because it's just not something that's out there like that. But it's out there. It's out there. But the idea behind this tool is that it allows you to see what you're thinking. Um, and you see guys will see how that works and whatnot. Guys will have fun with it. But yeah, I'm working on those two things. I'm also working on one more thing I can never remember until I get off. Ah, Messenger app. Yeah. And I mean, look, I shouldn't even be talking about this publicly because they arrest people for this shit already. That guy from Telegram got arrested in France for this shit. But I'm creating a fully encrypted, end-to-end encrypted messenger service or messenger app. Um, and I haven't touched it in a little while, but I the last thing I did was ensure that all the messaging functionality works. It's fully encrypted. I mean, this is zero knowledge, top to bottom. So your boy is whipping it, and these things are probably gonna all drop around the same time because I just started working on them at the same time. But they're fun to work on. It's fun to actually produce stuff that people probably want more than they know. Um, and yeah, man, it's good stuff. But take control of your life. Decide to take control of your life. Use the tools that are out there to do so, because that's what they're for. Don't let those tools just sit there and be used by others. Uh, put yourself in a position to win, guys. That's what it's all about, and do what you got to do for that. Because back in the day, nobody knew this was going to matter. But if you didn't have the foresight to think that it could, then you could have never taken advantage of it. And this is what you have to realize: you control what you do. Nobody else. So if you guys go to this website, look at this chart, see that 1 cent on the right side has a lot of price action under it. So do yourself the favor of educating yourself on how these things price themselves and the values become reality over time, because the T-share rate only goes up. And I don't know if you know what that means, but if mining difficulty in Bitcoin only goes up and the price of this thing is at $100,000 for no reason, what do you think price of that T-share is going to be if it only goes up with time? Because it's only going to be a matter of weeks before both T-share rates on ETH and Pulse Chain are both above 40,000 per T-share. Then what? Then 50,000, then 60, and so on and so forth. So do you really want to wait? I don't know. It's only a choice you can make. But the evidence is out there. And the interesting thing is about the evidence is that it points to Bitcoin being good first attempt, but Hex just being significantly better. Pulse Chain being significantly better than Ethereum. Pulse X being better than those others unmentionables that we won't mention. I mean, if you're not farming, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever. But again, there's a lot of aspects of markets, and I guess I'll do a stream on it that how you should be looking at things. You should be looking at things from a time dependent standpoint, not an asset dependent standpoint. So crypto should be your longest holding bag, and then stocks, and then long uh, term expiry options, leaps, and then you just move on down the line. However, whatever you want to trade, however you want to trade, but you got to have it divvied up by time, because that's how you should be cashing these things in, not by what it is. So catch you guys on the next one. Y'all think about what we talked about today and leave me your thoughts and comments and all of that good stuff. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your homies if they're trying to get live. Peace.